on YouTube. So apologies for the delay and apologies if I'm not doing this correctly, but happy to be here. Hey, folks. Um, for the folks who are here, I'd love to know where you're at in the world. So I think you can hop into the chat. Again, this is my first time, and of course I chose to do a live chat on a new platform for the first time as Mercury goes retrograde. So um smart idea on my part. But I think you can hop into the chat. Let's see. Live chat. Yeah. Okay. New York, nice. My sister just got up there yesterday, I think. She's flying out of New York to go to Africa in like a couple of days. But I spent a decade in New York, so I kind of consider it home, even though I'm in LA right now. Where else is everyone at? Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna do the live chat. Um, cool. Yeah, I'd love to know where you guys are calling from. Also, I'd love to know if you want to share your ASMR, your ascendant, sun, moon, ascendant, sun, ASM, ascendant, sun, moon, and ruling planet. Hey, I'm also in LA, East Side. Um, I'd love to know what rising signs, especially that we're working with today. But if you want to share your sun, moon, rising, all of it. Rising signs are important because it helps me kind of know like where all these transits are affecting people. Um, cool, Albany, New York from NYC. Hello, MP, and hi in San Diego, Liliana. I hope I'm not going to even say the word I'm doing, but you'll see what I'm doing. But does anyone have, hey, Kelly in Iowa, Sag Sun, Aquarius rising, Cancer moon. Hey, Terry, Virgo rising with Pluto rising. Love it. Love my Pluto and Virgos. Had a Taurus sun. Cool. Okay. I wonder if I can like see the chat. This is my first time doing this again, so I guess the chat kind of disappears after a minute. Hi, Shakira. Love to see it. Love to meet a fellow Shakira. Um, okay. Is it Shakira? Shakira? Or Shakira. I'm messing it up. Hi, 23-degree Aquarius rising. Um, that's exactly what's rising right now in LA. It's 23 degrees Aquarius rising with Saturn rising. So hello. I'm excited for the Aquarius risings, kind of, and Capricorn risings to have Saturn move on. So, hey, okay, great. Now that I'm seeing, I can't like, okay, no, I can see the chat. Great. Okay. Fellow Shakira, I love it. Cool. Hey, Esther. All right. So keep putting these in. I love it. I want to know if anyone has any questions off the bat, like what is on your mind? Even if it's like specific to your chart, specific to a transit you're going through right now or about to start going through. I'm very curious what you guys are feeling and how you guys are feeling because um, I essentially just want to be of service. You know, I wanna be able to um, help you out in the ways that you need. The moon just entered Taurus. Yes, a lot of Aries rising. So let's actually, I've been starting out all my readings recently. I've been doing these 2023 year ahead readings, which are like it's like an hour and a half of astrology plus also a tarot reading at the end, where I do like a 10 card spread. And so I've been starting out these readings by talking about Mars, this Mars retrograde that we've been slugging through for the past 2 months almost. Or I guess it has been 2 months actually today, I guess yesterday. It started October 30th. Hi, Liz in Ontario. We got another Scorpio rising. Okay, so the Aries risings and the Scorpio risings, especially, this is for you. This is also especially for anyone with Gemini placements or mutable placements too, who are getting squares from Mars right now. It's a lot, right? So let's talk about this Mars retrograde. Because if you think about the Scorpio house in particular, so I use whole sign houses if anyone's wondering. And so I want you to think about the house that Scorpio rests in your chart, your whole sign chart. Or you can think about, if you're not used to whole sign houses, then whatever the house cusp that Scorpio is, I believe. No, don't think. Just use whole sign. I don't know how to do it the other way, or I do. I just don't want to think about it too much. So think about that Scorpio house, because and the topics related to that house. For the Scorpio risings, it's you, it's your body, it's your identity. But yeah, especially your physical form, especially like your identity, how you show up in the world. Um, and also for the Aries risings too, like um, Mars rules your first house of self and body as well. Um, think about that Scorpio house. For me, it's my ninth house, which is teaching and astrology and travel, international travel. Um, the South Node has been moving through Scorpio for almost about a year now. It hasn't been a full year, but almost about a year now. Or maybe it has, no, I don't think it's been a full year, but maybe right around a year, essentially. Um, and we've been having eclipses in Scorpio for about a year now, too. Um, and specifically thinking about the South Node in the way that it has this it has a draining effect to it. I always think about like a toilet flushing with the South Node. And so there's been a lot of letting go. There's been a lot of releasing in the Scorpio area of life, right? There's just been a lot of like, this doesn't work anymore. This doesn't work anymore. This isn't serving anymore. Having to release and let go. Um, and if you have any planets in Scorpio, or if you're like a Scorpio rising, then you're also getting Saturn squaring everything. And you're also getting Uranus opposing everything. So it's been quite pretty challenging for that Scorpio part of your life, and anyone who has like Scorpio planets getting hit by all of these transits. And now Mars, the ruler of Scorpio, is retrograde. So we just add a whole nother layer to all of this. Um, and essentially, that's where I want to start, because think about that. Like, this part of your life is in the middle of a massive re-strategizing, especially during this retrograde. And the thing about Mars retrogrades is, Mars is like the warrior, right? Mars is the one that like gets us up and out of bed. It's the one that gives us our fight, it gives us our stamina, it gives us our decision making capacity and abilities. And so think about a warrior being retrograde, a warrior being taken off the field, right? Or off the battlefield. Um, what does that look like? Well, maybe number one thing you're doing is resting, right? If you're not fighting, probably you need to be resting up. And that's what Mars retrogrades are so essential for, is to literally let yourself do nothing um, a lot. And I think this is really hard for Aries rising, Scorpio risings, Aries and Scorpio suns, Aries and Scorpio Mars placements, like people who have, and also Capricorn Mars, people who are Martians, people who are used to being able to just like do the thing, do whatever they need to do. They're used to having the energy to kind of put behind it. And when Mars retrogrades, which Mars retrogrades the least out of all the planets, right? So the most rare of the retrogrades, it happens every about 24 months or 26 months about. Um, so that's another reason why Mars world people are just like not used to having to slow down as often. But I always try to ring the alarm to the Mars world people, and especially the Scorpio risings, because because Mars rules your first house and your sixth house, both having to do with your health, your physical health. And the sixth house specifically having to do with illness, right? Illness and injury. Aries risings, Mars rules your first house and your eighth house, a place that has to do with declining, has to do with death. It's not always death. It's not always physical death, I should say. But they're dark places. They're not fun places, right? So, with all that being said, here we are right now in Mars retrograde, and we've been here for 2 months, and we only have 2 weeks left. This ends on the 12th of January. The gag is Mercury is also retrograde now and ruling Mars in Gemini. So we're really in this for the month of January until at least the 18th, and Mercury's direct. But what is the purpose of this Mars retrograde? Because I know a lot of people are feeling stuck in limbo, like you're just like hanging out in like, the liminal space of just like, it's very like hangman energy right now, right? It's very like, well, this is wildly uncomfortable and I want nothing more than to just do something about it, but there's no energy to do anything about it. There's no will to do anything about it. Like, and even more importantly, you don't really know which direction to head in. Because the thing about Gemini and Mars in Gemini is that when planets are in Gemini, especially when they're retrograde in Gemini, you might recall the Venus retrograde in Gemini of spring 2020. We just get presented with all these options. It's like 500 forks in the road. And the purpose of the retrograde is to kind of explore those options, like think about, kind of explore each direction, research. Mars loves to research, especially a Mars in a Mercury ruled sign like Gemini or Virgo. Really good at just like pouring into facts and data. And it's not the time to make a choice necessarily, right? Like it's not necessarily time to make a choice. We're still in retrograde land. It's still time to explore. But come late January, say, the Aquarius new moon at the end of January, I think we're going to have so much more clarity, and then, yeah, we have a lot of like Saturn conjunctions in late Aquarius in January as well. Sorry if you can hear the dog drinking water. I don't know if that's loud. But yeah, there's just a lot. There's a lot concluding over the next month. And over the next 2 weeks, as Mars begins to station, Mercury begins to station over the next 3 weeks, we'll find that clarity. But I think it's really important to just let there be uncertainty right now. And I hate saying it because we all deserve, like, I know we all need that certainty. We're all craving it. Like, I'm so sick of being in the dark, right? I'm so sick of just feeling like I don't know what to do. But it's coming. So let's see. Does anyone have any questions, anything about how these transits are happening in your life or in your chart? I'd love to help out with that. When I'm looking over here, I'm looking at my computer. I have the chart pulled up. It's New Year's Eve, so let's talk about the astrology of New Year's Eve real quick. Because if you guys are going out tonight, yeah, you might be interested. So I want to look at, let me pull up like 11:50 p.m. I'm pretty sure over here it's a Libra rising chart over in California on the West Coast. So it's ruled by Venus. So I think the main, yeah, someone said Pluto on some shit. I think the main point of tonight is Venus conjunct Pluto and that transit happening today. It has happened once we get towards midnight, but that's really like the lead up of this entire day is Pluto moving towards this conjunction, or sorry, Venus moving towards this conjunction with Pluto. And this is very much like a callback from last year. And when we entered 2022 through in the middle of a Venus retrograde, Venus stationed retrograde at like 26 degrees of Capricorn, December 19th, 2021. And here we are again. Now Venus is at 27 degrees and it's stationed conjunct Pluto, is what I should say. And now it's back here again. So yeah, it has a callback. I think the good thing is that it's not as heavy in the sense that Venus isn't like stationed here. Last year there was this immense amount of like grief, and we had a lot of like prominent female icons, like women icons, die, and that's happening again. Didn't Barbara Walters just pass away last night or yesterday? So, and then we also see this like sense of justice with, yeah, last night, yeah. And of course, last year we had Betty White, exactly a year ago. For us, it was my family dog, Ozzy. I'm looking at his picture, who passed away. And my sister is a Libra rising, and so Venus is her chart ruler. And our dog was like her baby. You know, we got him for her 10th birthday, and he was like almost 18 when he passed away. But that was a really intense moment for our family, especially for, I think, mostly because of how it affected my sister. And I know a lot of people were just dealing with a lot of different really heavy things, that last winter around this time. So I think there's a callback here, and I think there's just a necessity to like acknowledge any grief that's coming up right now, and to not, to not try to overlook it. It's really important to be with it wherever you're at right now. Also, the moon's in Taurus, so have your moon in Taurus. Definitely eat good tonight. Get in a really good meal before you party, if you are partying. And if you're not partying, still get in a really good meal. I think you can, there's good vibes for that, for eating good today. What else? What else? The dog is like freaking out. I'm dog sitting. I don't have a dog. Yeah. So, oh, also it's the moon, moving towards the North Node too. So it can be a little indulgent. The North Node really sort of like activates, hey, hey. The North Node really activate, it kind of like overstimulates whatever it's touching, and the moon kind of moving towards it. I would say really, be careful, like limit your substance use, essentially. So I think essentially it's kind of like, hyper, I'm feeling like hyper, what's the word I'm looking for? Hyperstimulated is a very like moon conjunct North Node vibe. It's very hyperstimulated, especially physically. Um, and so essentially what I'm saying is like if you're gonna take drugs, like start start low, and don't like go all out right away, because you don't know, like I'm not saying like bad dangerous things are happening or anything like that, but it's just like, you might just feel a little extra sensitive tonight with the moon, exalted and conjunct the North Node. It's raining here, so we're probably not going to be able to see the moon, but if you're somewhere where it's clear skies, you'll be able to see the moon all night until, it probably sets around like 2 a.m. So yeah, it'll be nice viewing for that. Um, okay. Yeah, and you'll be able to see Mars too. Anyone have any questions? I'm like, I don't know if I'm missing any, but I'll just keep talking about the year. I'll just keep talking about 2021 because I've been so deep in it. Um, and I have my ephemeris and my honeycomb book too to help me with dates. So if anyone's curious about any specific time period in 2021 or sorry, 2023, Jesus, um, or any like specific time to do something fun, or specific during next year, I can help with that too. Um, yeah, how do I see the chat? This is so confusing. Sometimes it pops up. Oh, there it is. Okay. Um, just got my first honeycomb. Yeah, I don't get paid by Honeycomb, but maybe one day they'll sponsor me. I love and I think it's especially good. I'll fully admit, I didn't really take full advantage of Honeycomb until I became a horoscope writer and I started like really needing it for that. But it's if you're doing any sort of like planning, plotting into the future, it's just such a good freaking thing to have. So it's essentially a digital almanac. And I buy one every year. Usually buy a couple. You can do it digitally, and then you can get it printed, and it just has so much information. These are all blank pages, but it's like it has calendars and it has essentially like all of the transits. Um, I wish I put this on Do Not Disturb. I forgot to do that. I wonder if I can do it on a computer. Yeah, it has all the transits of everything every day, and then also shows how the transits affects you, your personal transits. And you can do like Hellenistic plugins, so you can do like zodiacal releasing. Oh, here it is. Let's do Not Disturb. Okay. Perfect. Yes. Okay. So yeah, I love this thing. And it also has ephemeris in the back. It also has with declination, and it also has new moon charts for every new moon of the year. So I keep this thing. This is like what one of the calendars look like. It's just super helpful. Okay, what was I? Okay, let's see. There's some questions. Um, I just want to acknowledge Chick Chicky Leo. Chick, yeah, I'm gonna say it's that Chicky Lou. It's not. I'm a little bit dyslexic. Sorry. As a Scorpio rising this year, kicked my ass. Yeah, the Scorpio. Hey, like solidarity for Scorpio placements, especially the risings. Um, I I have a lot of clients, I have a lot of friends. Like, I know it's been a year. You're going to make it out of this so amazing. And I'm really excited for Scorpios for next Scorpio season. I'll talk about that. But yeah, I feel you. I feel you. Yeah. Okay. Can you go over Saturn square Mercury transit that's been going on? Yeah, Shakira, let's do it. Um, Cool. Saturn square Mercury. Yeah, I had this before too. So Saturn squares suck, period. Saturn squares suck. And to talk about Saturn squares, let's talk about Saturn, I guess, which um, Saturn is a malefic planet. It's referred to as the greater malefic. It is the seventh sphere of the planetary spheres, which is why it's referred to as greater. It's farthest away. Um, and I'm a traditional astrologer again, so I am talking visible planets. Well, we definitely acknowledge the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. They definitely matter. They definitely have an effect. They affect us differently than the visible planets do because they are not visible to us from the naked eye. So anyway, Saturn, far out, right? Literally. And therefore has the qualities of cold, extreme cold, darkness, dryness. It is far away from the sun. It is far away from everybody. It's just out there, kind of being the boundary, the limit of our visible solar system. Um, and therefore represents what's real to us, right? Like what we actually can tangibly kind of see. It represents boundaries and limitations. If you think about Saturn out there, think about Saturn and Jupiter, right? They're both huge. They're both these ginormous gas giants. But what's different about them? Jupiter was able to expand and get bigger and bigger and have like a posse of moons. Um, Whereas Saturn is bound by these ice rocky rings. Saturn's literally bound up. It's literally like Akon locked up. Just started playing in my head. Um, yeah, Saturn represents limitation, right? Boundaries. What is harsh, stark reality? And so, and it's not just all bad, you know, I like to think Saturn can be thought of as, you know, the prison guard and the rule maker and the timekeeper, which it is. But it can also be looked at in the lens of the protector, right? The protector, the one that keeps you sane, keeps you grounded, um, keeps you on track, keeps you hardworking and you know, dedicated and responsible, and it's the ruler of time. So Saturn squares and are an aspect that are of the nature of Mars, right? So they kind of hurt, they kind of bite, and they are meant to cause friction and a challenge, right? Like that's Mars. Mars wants to go to war. Mars wants to fight. And so square between two planets is like those two planets kind of in a little bit of a battle. And with Saturn imposing that on your Mercury is what I'm assuming that's what you're saying. Can you tell me what sign your Mercury is in, um, Shakira? It's so weird saying that, but it's kind of fun. Calling someone else Shakira. So yeah, it's like Saturn sort of imposing limits, structures, restrictions, boundaries onto. Oh, also tell me your rising again. Okay, it's occurring in your first house. So which one's your first? Tell me again, because that'll help me. But yeah, so Saturn, think about like icy cold Saturn sort of wrapping its rings around your Mercury or sort of imposing that. Saturn Aquarius first house, Mercury and Scorpio 10th house. Got it. Um, got it. Okay. Yeah, so it's coming from, okay, got it. Um, so yeah, this is sort of like the opening of when Saturn was in Scorpio 7, 8 years ago. Well, it was about a decade ago at this point, about 2012 to 2015. Saturn in Scorpio. So that transit was like the true constriction of Saturn, like hugging your Scorpio, your Mercury and your Scorpio planets, right? That sucks. That time period sucked. I hated that. And honestly was very, very similar to this time period. I don't know if anyone else can remember back to 2012, 2013, 14, when Saturn was in Scorpio. And we also had eclipses happening in Scorpio and Taurus around a similar time period, 2013. And yeah, that was a constriction that happened. Now we're at the square of that. So we're at this sort of like turning point, growing point, um, from that period. And it's sort of like Saturn being like, what have we learned? Hate it. What have we learned, right? Like, um, and how are we going to move forward differently? With Mercury, I'm thinking, okay, so your Aquarius rising, so Mercury rules your fifth house, right? In your eighth house, yeah. Um, it rules your fifth house and your eighth house. Oof, gosh, the fifth house, eighth house square, and it's in your 10th house. Okay, so I'm assuming you do some sort of do you work in the arts or um, do you work in entertainment or arts or something like that, or sex or anything like that? I'm curious what you do. But I'm assuming that this Saturn square has put a strain on you, intimate, like on your ability to kind of be intimate and to feel. You're an actress, okay? Your creativity, um, especially your creativity and your ability to just sort of be in that, really fertile creation space. Saturn's sort of icing you out and like cock blocking you, essentially. And for a reason, right? Like we need to have these periods of constriction. We need to have these periods of like release, letting things go. I like to think of it as refinement, um, in order to like kind of strengthen us up a little bit, right? Like we need to kind of be put through like what these weather tests sometimes. Um, and and to also, yeah, make sure we have more integrity and strength moving forward. So the good news is that, we only have, I can't look at my countdown because it's my phone, but only a couple more months, until March 7th when Saturn enters Pisces. And Saturn's also your chart ruler too, so that adds a whole nother level to it. But Saturn moving into Pisces, loosening it up a little bit, and starting to trine your Scorpio planets. And so starting to add more support instead of like harsh, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like trial, like with Saturn, it's just such a grind. It's always such a grind. Um, and so, yeah, the Saturn square Mercury, I mean, it'll be over within the next within the next 3 months. I'm trying to remember. I don't know that what degree you have it at, but yeah, it's think about how this contraction, this constriction of your your creativity essentially, and also this eighth house stuff. So maybe there's also something here around like how much you're giving and not getting, or, sort of trying to rebalance or restructure um, your sort of like support systems, and how, whether that's you giving too much more than you're receiving or vice versa. Saturn's at 23, Mercury's at 22. Oh, yeah, sorry. My Mars is at 22 Scorpio, so I feel you. 22 Scorpio has been getting beat down all year, because the South Node was parked there, for like 5 months, 4 or 5 months this summer. So yeah, I feel you. I really, really feel you. And we get Uranus next year too. Uranus gets there. It's going to station at 23 degrees. But yeah, I get it. And I'm really hopeful for Mars, people with Scorpio and Aries placements, especially the Aries placements are getting it a lot earlier. Scorpio placements, 2024 is going to be a lot better. Mars will retrograde in 2024, but we'll get the end of 2023, Mars in Scorpio, and then a couple months later, Mars in Capricorn, exalted, and then later in the summer, Mars in Aries, and domicile again. So we get our Mars redemption arc. But we're kind of building over the next year towards that. So yeah, let's see. I don't know. Hopefully that was helpful, Shakira. Saturn square Mercury. Okay. Do I have, thoughts about Jupiter Pluto square? Oh, you mean the transiting one. Hi, Taylor. I was like, what Jupiter Pluto square? The transiting one. Oh, girl, I don't know. I don't think I can answer. Sometimes I just like can't talk about Pluto and Aquarius. So maybe I'll come back to it. Um, do you have thoughts on what to do when your electional chart for your new job is not good? Mars in the fourth house, opposite moon, and implying aspect. Okay, 117. Let's look at that. That's a good question. 2023. Let's do, I'm assuming like you're gonna start at 9 a.m. I don't know, around that. 10 a.m. maybe. Okay, 10 a.m. Cool. Excuse me. Hi, Esther. Can you tell me what the job is? Like, what type of job is it? This doesn't look that bad, dude. Oh my gosh, this is really good. The moon's applying to trine Jupiter in the first, in the, which is the chart ruler. Um, that's not bad. It's a film audio job. Oh my gosh. Okay, look. If you are in this job to make some money, um, I don't know if you're I don't know if you're in this job in hopes to like stay for a long time. Because it's not that I'm saying not that at all. Um, but if you are, because we have the chart ruler here, Jupiter. So it's a Pisces rising chart, 27 degrees, just to learn skills. Okay, cool. Um, film audio job. Okay, perfect. Because it's giving. Okay, Jupiter. Jupiter is in Aries. Jupiter is a chart ruler. It's in Aries in the second house, conjunct Juno. So we have a cute little Juno Jupiter conjunction, which I like because that's like Jupiter and it means sorry, Hera and Zeus kind of together in Aries in the second house. Like to me, that's like let's make this bread. But it's not for money. Like you said, it's for skill building. Um, let's see. We have Mars direct, which is great, ruling the second house. In the fourth. Okay, but what I really like about this is the moon's at just inter Sag, right around 10 a.m. It's trine the chart ruler Jupiter. That's great in any electional chart. We love that. We love a moon aspecting Jupiter, which is the benefic of sect. I think the real issue here is not even Mars. The real, I think, conundrum of this chart is the um, Mercury. It's 11th house situation. It's the Sun conjunct Pluto that really kind of raises an eyebrow for me, mostly because the Sun rules the sixth house, and it's here in the 11th house conjunct Pluto. And so I would just be and then also this Mercury rules the seventh house here too, and it's retrograde in the 11th. So I would just be like careful about who you tell personal information to. I'm not saying like be paranoid. I don't want you to be paranoid at a new job, especially with like new people, but like just I don't know. That's my advice. I would feel bad like not saying that, I guess, because that's like the one thing that actually stands out to me more than anything is the ruler of the sixth house being conjunct Pluto. Um, the cool thing, especially about you wanting to do this for skills, is that we have the North Node and Uranus in the third house, ruled by this Venus and Aquarius in the 12th. Excuse me. So to me, 12th house Venus ruling the third house, that we have this like yeah really interesting like fixed sign situation. I think this is really great for skill building, especially in the sense that like it's very like behind the scenes, it sounds like, type of job. um audio audio stuff is very 12th house, third house, 12th house to me. So yeah, I think this could be really good for that. I think you could there could be some good like just like I don't know. I'm trying to think about how to say that. The Saturn and Aquarius piece feels really strong. And it almost feels like you can do a lot of like learning on your own even. Um, tell me what your rising sign is, Esther, again. I know I'm pretty sure we've talked before. I think your name sounds familiar. Virgo rising. Okay, so you're Mercury ruled. Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. So this is like Mercury hanging out in your fifth house too. Um, sweet. Yeah. I like it. I like it. I would be more again, I don't want to say worried. I really don't want to get in your head, but that's like the one thing I would just say is like, just be careful about who you're making friends with there. because, you know, you never know. Some people are just weird. So that's the one thing. But hopefully that's helpful, Esther. And congratulations on your new job. Congratulations on getting a start date with Mars direct, and Mercury stations direct the day after this too. So it's probably pretty impactful. It's probably going to be a really fun, creative space for you too. They're mostly white dudes. Okay, so you know, you know what to do. I'm sure there's going to be some really great people there, and that you're going to have, you know, some really, really great experiences. I just, yeah, that's one thing I would just be cautious of, like kind of toxic workplace people, you know, or coworkers or whatever. Um, Kate gave birth to twins. Wow. Wow, congratulations. Let's see. Thinking of starting to offer astrology readings this year. Any advice on timing the launch? Hello, is it Alana? Um, Congrats on that. Okay, cool. Um, yeah. What's your astro? What's your sun, moon, rising? Is it Elena or Alana? I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correctly. I'm gonna grab my hoodie. I'm cold. Um, because that's gonna matter. That's gonna matter a lot. Because there's a lot of great times in 2023 to do things, depending on what planets we're looking at. Aries rising, Aquarius sun, Scorpio moon. Yay, cool. Aries rising, Aquarius sun, Scorpio moon. Aries rising. I'm just gonna make my chart in Aries rising so I can look at it better. Okay, cool. Um, cool. So I'm happy that your moon's gonna get some relief finally um, from Saturn. um, Maybe not from Uranus, I don't know. But anyway, I'm really excited for Aries season this year. I'll just say that. And okay, so you're doing astrology readings. I really like Aries season. I really like parts of Pisces season. I'm gonna look at my ephemeris for this. If you don't know what an ephemeris is, mine ripped in, not even in half. Um, Most of it ripped because 2020 was such an intense year. And like the pages started to rip out and then eventually just rip. So now it starts at January 2021, which is actually easier to handle. Apologies if you can hear that car alarm. It's just that's just how it is. Okay. So you're in Aries rising. Let's see, who rules your money? Um, Venus rules your money and your clients. Um, it's so distracting. Can you guys hear that car alarm? Okay, it just went off. Never mind. So Venus rules your clients and your money. So we want Venus in a nice place, but we also I don't think want Venus in Pisces for you. I don't think we want Venus necessarily exalted in your because it's your 12th house. Um, However, so Venus is going to enter Aries, which Venus is in detriment in Aries. But this is kind of cute. So, and also you said you're Aquarius rising, so you're a day chart. Got it. Um, where's your natal Venus, by the way? And your Saturn. Tell me where your Venus and your Saturn are. Um, that would be helpful. So, actually, if you want to tell me your if you want to tell me your birthday and time, I can also that might just be more straightforward. Um, because I have an idea of a good time, but I don't want to tell you something that might like negate your something else in your chart. But if you don't want to share, I also understand that. So let me know. Okay. Because essentially, I was going to say, there's March 1st, there's a very cute Venus Jupiter conjunction in Aries. Venus and Saturn are in the ninth conjunct. Oh, cool. Okay. 124, 87, 10. Okay. 124, 10. You were born on a Saturday. Nice. 57. Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing. Um, I'm a very visual person. Okay, cool. Look at you, Mars incarnate. I bet you can't wait for this retrograde to be over and for Saturn to stop squaring your moon. Okay, cool. This is helpful. So there's a Venus Jupiter conjunction on your Mars. It's at 12 degrees. Um, yeah, and on your Mars slash North Node. Um, Very cute, very cute. And then you have that really lovely Venus Saturn conjunction. I love it. It's conjunct my natal Mercury, so I'm partial to those degrees. Um, yeah, okay, cool. In your ninth, love it. Okay, I'm going to say I like late March a lot. I'm gonna launch some shit in late March too. But this is why I like late March for you. Um I'm gonna look at transits for you too. Let's see. Your name is Elena with A-L. Okay. I think I spelled it right. Yes. Okay. So I'm just saving you so I can pull up transits to your chart because I can't pull up transits to transits. Okay, cool. Happy Sun conjuncture midheaven today. So, I really like late March for you because let's see, I'm gonna pull up a day to just see what's up. Yeah, yeah. So, because we have similar angles, that's why I immediately thought of this for you. So we're gonna go late March. I believe it's March 27th. I don't think you should do it that day because the moon is void all day. But the day before that, maybe the 26th. But any day in March, really, any day that that Mercury is in, I would say that like Saturn's in Pisces and that Mercury is in Aries in March. I like um, because if you just look at the moon and see what moon you like for that, just make sure it's not void. And the reason why there's a Mercury Jupiter conjunction happening. It happens on the 27th, which is a Monday. Um, but the moon's void all day, so it's not really a usable day. But it happens at 18 degrees of Aries, which is going to essentially be like trying your Venus Saturn conjunction in the ninth house. And I just think you should utilize these Aries transits, especially when the sun's in Aries. That's another thing. The sun in Aries. Um, just utilize all these planets in Aries. And at that time, also, Venus will be in Taurus, which I like for you because we like the ruler of your second house and your seventh house, Venus, to be in domicile. That's like your seventh house ruler, your clients have money, they have resources, right? Like they are a resource, Venus in domicile. And so I like Venus in Taurus. I like, an exalted Aries sun in your first house. And I love this Jupiter Mercury conjunction happening, trine your natal Venus Saturn conjunction. Because I think with Venus Saturn, like you can really get some loyal clients. I think you can get some people who like can consistently come back to you. I feel like your clients, you would do well with like international clients or people from different cultures, different places, right? With the ruler of your seventh house in the ninth house, and or teachers, people who work in education. And so cast a wide net in sense of like region. Um, I think you can really get people from all over. Or maybe it is that you like cater to like immigrants or, someone who or people, clients who, come from a specific place too. Or again, have like a, a what am I trying to say? Who are all kind of similar in that way, like all being immigrants or what have you, expats, what have you. Same difference, right? Immigrants, expats. So anyway, hopefully that's helpful. Happy entrance into the astro world. It's a fun place to be. Excuse me. Um, curious about curious about some of the lessons slash themes for my upcoming Saturn return in the fifth house. Yeah, I'm actually like trying to start talking about this and writing about this more. I'm thinking I'm going to make a YouTube series. I'm thinking I'm going to do that. Let's see how long I can do this live without having to get up and pee. Um, or maybe I could just run and do it real quick and set a record. If I start petting this dog, he's never going to let me stop. But anyway, so fifth house Saturn return. Yeah, Saturn return in Pisces. I was actually talking to a friend, an astrologer friend last night, who has a fifth house Saturn in Pisces. We were talking about this. Um, yeah, well, the, the first thing I'll say about Saturn returns is like it is the it is very much the cliche, which is like it's a 3-year period where you're just like forced to grow up. Like that's like the baseline of what the Saturn return is. It's like, well, time to grow up, time to like and like you think, I'm grown up, of course. Yeah, I live by myself or I pay my bills or I have a job, or like I've been doing this grown up shit for a while. Yes. But it's like first of all, it's all subjective, right? For the most part. Second of all, it's like has a lot to do with it's a very internal thing and external, but it's almost like your bones they're not this is not actually what's happening, but it's like your bones are going through like a strengthening process or something. It's like you're getting weathered. And I think about like a tree and how you have those like posts that kind of like keep the tree up when it's a baby tree so it like doesn't snap in half with the wind. Um, and essentially the Saturn return is like when you take those posts away and like the first couple storms come and it's like okay, like you really gotta like root down deep, and this is the time, this is the taking the training wheels off, so whatever that means for you and where you are in your life and where Saturn, when you think about your Saturn return, you have to think in your chart, you have to think about 3 different houses, especially if you don't have Saturn and Capricorn Aquarius. You have to think about Capricorn and Aquarius, that little pair of houses in your chart, because Saturn rules those 2 houses, and those 2 houses are always going to be linked in some way, shape, or form because they're both ruled by the same planet. And then the house that Saturn's in your chart, because that's where we find those topics. Um, that's where we find, the who's kind of steering the ship of those topics is that Saturn in Pisces for you in the fifth house. And so what I'm going to do is I don't need your chart, but I'm just going to just pull up a random chart, a Scorpio rising chart in next year, just so I can see. Because my brain needs it. It really does. Okay. So thinking about, okay, yeah, Saturn in your fifth house. Okay. Excuse me. So yeah, yeah. When it comes to Saturn return, I always like to think about it as like where we're kind of having this um, concentration of like responsibility and just like heaviness and pressure and weight, um, in order to kind of set you up for the next 30 years. Essentially thinking about it like that. We have this 3-year period. Saturn's not coming back for 30 years to be like, I come in every 30 years for maintenance. Like it takes 3 years, that kind of thing. And so this is just like a really concentrated time, for some heavy duty work. For in the fifth house, that work is concentrated in this area of life having to do with pleasure and creativity. I like to say the fifth house is what you give birth to. And so I like to think about fifth house Saturn returns as like a 3-year long pregnancy, essentially, where I think Jupiter did a nice job of probably making you pretty fertile in that area of life, or kind of inspiring hope, inspiration, like faith, kind of maybe restoring your faith, maybe restoring your sense of creativity. Um, where Saturn's going to come in there, dim the lights quite a bit. Saturn makes things quite icy, colder, dimmer, darker wherever it enters, um, and get to work. Yeah, Kate said it's like life is asking you to grow up. There's necessity, exactly. Um, and and wherever your Saturn is in your chart, that's like an area of your life where there's you hold a lot of responsibility, and there's a lot of like that's where you need to kind of be able to face reality and be a grown up as well. And so Saturn coming back into your fifth house for the first time since you were, an infant and a toddler, um, when you were like kind of building the first building blocks, the first bricks of the foundation of your life. Saturn comes back during the Saturn return. Don't you dare start barking. Hey, Chop, don't do that. Um, I usually don't have to deal with dogs interrupting my lives. Sorry. But anyway, Saturn comes back and essentially like shores up the foundation, so that after the 3-year period, you're able to finally paint the walls, start to decorate, move some furniture in. Um, but the first 30 years of our life, we're still building the foundation. And this 3-year period is like making sure it's solid, making sure it's going to weather the next 30 years. So, excuse me. So again, in the fifth house, we're talking about third house, fourth house themes in the fifth house. So there's a true like weightiness, heaviness to these Saturn returns in like the third, fourth, fifth house. I like to think of it as like an anchoring almost. And in the fifth house, it's really pulling you again into that like, what is this space, that second chakra space, that like creation space, that like womb space, but it's not really womb space. Yeah, I guess it is womb space. It's like the sacral, please don't lick my table. Sorry. It's like this very sacral space, a very fertile space. Saturn being there um, it makes it more serious, right? It's not so much of a like, I'm gonna throw my arms around you and like let's make love until the sun rises. It's like, what are the consequences of this? It may be that, but you may need to be establishing a lot of rules and boundaries before you get to that part. And I think with Saturn and Pisces in the fifth house, it's like, yeah, what's your responsibility towards creating art? Like where is the discipline in your creation process? What is the regimen? And maybe that means having to fucking totally dismantle whatever processes you have. maybe for other people, that means you really need to like step it up and, have some discipline around your process. I don't know what that means for you. For a lot of people, Saturn return in fifth house is going to be having the first kid, um, or dealing with fertility issues, or yeah, for I think most of you, it's going to be something having to do with your creativity or your sexuality, and really, exploring. Maybe it's exploring your sexuality and your creative expression for the first time in a way that you never have. But for everyone going through a Saturn return, just know, and I'll talk about this whenever I get around to making videos, just know it's a process. Like it is a mother effing process. Do not feel like it's going to all happen all at once. Don't feel like it's all going to happen during the exact return, the exact degree. It's a whole ass process. I would say the squares are the hardest part if you have planets in mutable signs, if you have sun or moon in mutable signs, like chart ruler, like the squares, I think, or the conjunctions tend to be the hardest part, less so than like the exact Saturn return. But it's a process. It's not going to be the same the entire time. There's multiple parts to it, and the part of the process that I always come back to is like it's a reparenting process. You are teaching yourself how to parent yourself, and oftentimes you are teaching your parents how to parent. Sometimes you're parenting your parents as well, but it's a whole process, and it's not easy, but it is so gratifying to move through, and so humbling. Oh my God, that's another word for it. It humbles the shit out of you. So yeah, and I think, maybe that is more so for us Saturn in domiciles, Whoa. Sorry, I never see the the mailman drive all the way down here in the car. So anyway, it is, yeah. I think those of us with Saturn and Capricorn and Aquarius, like maybe a little bit more humbling because we may, have a little bit of a um, confident, little cocky Saturn in domicile needed to be knocked down a peg or two. I saw cocky domiciled Saturns. I think Saturn and Pisces as a subgeneration tend to be a lot more down to earth and humble. And just you guys are just the sweetest things. And not in like a patronizing way, like in a way where I really do think that you're the sweetest millennials. Even, you are the youngest millennials, but the sweetest millennials as well. And the ones who kind of take on this like weight and responsibility for like healing the world, educating, like really like elevating and reconnecting everyone on this like, like reminding people of magic, like reconnecting people to spirit. There's this really healing capacity for the Saturn and Pisces generation. But the Saturn return, I think, is going to help humble them in the sense that it'll like kind of bring them back to themselves. And that's so important. Is that you cannot do this work. You cannot do the work that you want to do if you're not, doing it for yourself first. And it's like so corny to say, but unfortunately true. Don't bark at this man, please, pork chop. Um, yeah. All right, let's see how many more, if we have any more questions. Entering first house. Yeah, I'm excited for you, Taylor. Can we please hang out soon? Jupiter Venus conjunction is locked in my solar return chart, and Venus is ruling my solar return ascendant. Does that mean I'll have a good year? I'm going to call it, yes. I'm going to call it. You're going to have a great year. Let's see. And yeah, Taylor, and for those ruled by Saturn, I do think it's going to be really nice to have Saturn I think for everyone, it's going to be really nice to have Saturn not um, in its own sign and not and having to answer to Jupiter, having to answer to a different sign every couple, or every couple a different Jupiter placement, I guess I should say, every year or so. We start out with Saturn answering to Jupiter in Aries, which is like they're not going to be able to see each other. So it's going to be a really interesting vibe to, I think, the first couple months of Saturn in Pisces with Jupiter in Aries. A little bit dissociative, I think. I think it's going to feel a little floaty still. But once Jupiter gets into Taurus and they start to aspect each other, they start to kind of sextile for a while. I think that's going to be really, really nice. Thinking about Jupiter Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees Aquarius in late 2020. This will be the opening sextile to that conjunction. So that like hopefulness and that intention that we put into that Jupiter Saturn conjunction of like kind of ushering us into this whole new era. I think we're going to really start to see the fruits, like the beginning, the seeds maybe, um, of that um, once Jupiter gets into Taurus. So yeah, and then so Saturn will be answering to this like ushy gushy. I've been calling Jupiter in Taurus stoner dad energy. It just gives me that like comfy, like sweater dad hitting the bong on the sofa, vibe. Jupiter and Taurus. Both my parents have Jupiter and Taurus. Neither of them are stoners, but they're both very cozy, comfy people. Like they are all about cozy comfort. Um, so yeah, I think it's going to be nice to have a less like we've been having Saturn in its own sign, icy cold, harsh Saturn, capable of putting down the boot, Saturn for 5 years now. It'll be like almost 5.5 years straight. So it'll be nice to have a Saturn that's like has to kind of enter Jupiter's hot tub. I call Pisces Jupiter's hot tub. Get a little psychedelic, get a little bendy, wendy. If you remember Saturn in Sagittarius, that was kind of a fever dream. It wasn't that fun. I did not like it. But and I was really craving the consistency and the stability of Saturn and Capricorn at that point. I'm excited to kind of have a little bit of a bendy Saturn again, kind of, you know, see what's up. Something a little different. Something a little different. As a Pisces rising, do you have any advice for Saturn transiting our first house after being in our 12th house? Well, as a Pisces rising, I can say this hasn't happened to me since I was like 2 years old, 3 years old, I guess. So I don't fully remember. I mean, it was the beginning of my first memory, so that's kind of trippy. My earliest memories are like my third birthday. Um, which would have been, yeah, Saturn in early Pisces. Interesting to think about. Oh, interesting. Actually, I have this memory, and it was the memory is so specific because I I had to go to the doctor that day and get my foot checked out. Something was wrong with my foot. And I remember being at the doctor's and like not really wanting to be there because I wanted to party because I had a really big party for my third birthday party. But just thinking about Saturn's association with the feet and how it's my first house and how Saturn entering Pisces, I had like a foot problem. Um, anyway, yeah. So the advice I will give you is the advice that I've had other astrologers give me, older astrologers. I don't know if any of you know of Kelly Surtees and Sam Reynolds. They're both incredible astrologers. They're both also Pisces risings. And I've had readings from both of them over the past year. And yeah, I get the advice to be really intentional about your health. Um, and yeah, be really intentional about your health and your wellness. And, I think to not scare you from that, I think with Saturn being in the 12th house for so long, it's been really difficult to access Saturn. Um, and by that, I mean difficult to access the kind of like discipline, structure that you feel like you might need to like, live a healthier lifestyle, for instance. That might have been really difficult over the past couple of years as a Pisces rising. Um, and so I think that when Saturn's in the first house, that's going to become accessible again. And so I think there's going to be more like desire and want to even, be really more intentional about your body, your physical health. Because in the 12th, it's so much about the mental health as well and fighting, the depression and the all of that, the anxiety, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it's definitely a time to get really serious about your health and your wellness. Um, yeah, and I think it's it's really important to make sure you're moving, you're staying like physical and active. And I don't want to say exercise because it's not really about exercise. It's really about just not being stagnant because Saturn will stagnate. That's what it does. It makes things move slower, it crystallizes, it hardens things, it it makes things heavier, more weighty, and it slows things down. So making sure that you're moving, you're staying active. And by that I mean like you that could mean walking for 5-10 minutes. That can mean stretching after a shower. That can mean dancing, to your favorite song, every morning to wake up. It's just making sure that things aren't getting stagnant. Um, especially with water, like stuck water, that's very, um, I have an Aries moon too, yeah. And we need to stay active, if you're very Martian or, yeah, because that's when like you get really fresh like the it starts to build up inside of you and you start to get really like antsy and like what's the word I'm looking for, when you're like kind of a bitch when you're when you're when you're like what's the word, irritable, uh, get really irritable and just like oh you gotta jump out of your skin type of thing. um so yeah, staying keep moving essentially, and stay drinking. Hey Cameron. um yeah, stay drinking water, stay hydrated. That's important, because any sort of malefic transits will dehydrate you and make you stagnant. um wow. Kate, yes, you're definitely more than a mom, because I can only imagine being a mom to twins. I mean, I have friends who are moms to twins, and yeah, I have my best friend just became a mom a week ago, on Christmas Eve. And she has a Capricorn moon. Her daughter was born in the Capricorn new moon, and I am so extremely cautious. Um, since the day I was with her when she found out she was pregnant, I just happened to be staying with her, and it was total like out of the blue. Wasn't expecting it, and from the beginning, I just wanted to kind of affirm her fears because like I told her I'm like I wanted to be have a kid. I've known I wanted to be a mom since I was like a toddler, and if I were in her position, I'd still be terrified. It's like a scary thing, and two, the fact that I just she's a Leo stellium. She has a Leo stellium at like the last 2 degrees of Leo. She's a queen. She's a star. She's a badass. And I think she had a lot of fears of like losing her identity to being a mom, becoming a mom. And her and the baby are doing phenomenal. Her husband sat me to an album this morning and like a million pictures, and I just spent like an hour freaking out and looking at pictures of her and the baby. But yeah, she's great and she's doing really well. But there was definitely that fear of like, And I think so many people have that fear of becoming a parent. So yeah, I just want to affirm that and say that you're Kate. You're more than a mom to great twins, you know. You're also a mom to great twins. Um, let's see. Hey, hey, hey. Um, Aquarius rising, Saturn going through first. I agree. I'll start paying more attention to my health and more discipline with doctor appointments and such. Cool. Good to hear that, Shakira. Um, any advice for Aquarius rising since Pluto is about to enter our first? I'm afraid to talk about it, Braxton. I'm not afraid to talk about it. I just don't. I just been like trying to avoid talking about Pluto and Aquarius only because it sends me on like a whole like thing. It's just so much to talk about. And it's the beginning of like a 20-year transit. It's going to be 20 years of Pluto and Aquarius. So it's just so hard to talk about. But what I will, and also I'll say I'm a Plutonian. I was born with like Sun Mars Pluto conjunction, and I haven't really had that many Pluto conjunction, like significant Pluto transits since then. I've had really intense Pluto squares. But I don't really get it until like it's going to conjunct my Saturn when it enters Aquarius. But yeah, I think our connection to Pluto is so tied to our connection with like this like these sort of global systems, the the power systems that we live within, and so how it affects us, how these sort of outer planets affect us personally tends to have to deal with those intersections. Um, I think with Aquarius rising, you've been feeling, with any planet leaving the 12th house and entering the first, it's sort of that feeling. When planets are in the 12th house, you feel them. It's like feeling like when someone's like sneaking up behind you, but you turn around, they're not there. It's like that feeling of just feeling something imminent. When it gets into your first, it becomes a lot more real and tangible. And so I would say talk to Capricorn risings. They would know more than I would. But also when it comes to Pluto transit in the first, it's like you are the caterpillar entering the chrysalis or whatever it's called, entering the cocoon. Like that is what's happening. It's a 20-year process of you. Like you're just the caterpillar just about to go in there. Um, but that's it. Like it's a complete transformation, cellular level transformation of you, your identity of your life, like how you show up, how you take form in this world. It's going to change over the next 20 years. That's what I would say. Yeah, Cap Rising. That's so Pisces Taylor, who's an incredible astrologer and hypnotherapist. If you guys are interested, we've done a couple podcast episodes together, and I love her a lot. Um, but yeah, Taylor says, I completely shed so much previous programming, constant reawakening. And they're blushing. I feel like it was like I feel like I just saw you, even though I know it was like over, it has to have been like a year at this point. But I just picture myself on your balcony smoking weed with you like it was not that long ago. I want it to happen again. Um, anyway, um, bestie same. I'm shaking in my boots. Um, yeah, okay. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so I have to go soon because I have to pee. I take this medication. I take a kidney medication or medication for my kidneys, and it makes me very thirsty. And I've been like holding off and chugging water, but because I already have to pee because it makes me have to pee a lot. So I do want to wrap up just by talking about a couple of my favorite like my favorite points about next year. Um, so we kind of got to the middle of the year. We kind of talked about Jupiter entering Taurus and Saturn entering Pisces, but the next sort of major thing is Venus retrograde. Venus is going to retrograde in Leo. And the major points about that are that it's going to be, she's going to square Uranus and Jupiter in Taurus. So it's a very like Leo Taurus square situation. If you think about the fact that the fixies, us fixed signs, especially Leo and Taurus, but actually, especially like all of us, whatever, all of us fixies. There's no competition here. We've been getting hammered by Saturn. We've been getting hammered by Uranus. We've been getting fucked by the nodes, right? Um, for the past couple years. And so to have both benefics, Venus and Jupiter, angular for an extended period of time, Venus is going to be in Leo for 4 months, beginning of June to the beginning of October, and Jupiter will be in Taurus, you know, starting in May until the following year. That's going to be a really nice period, chunk of time of just like, I'm not saying it's going to be all good and flowers and shit, but I do think, oh, and I will say like the dangers of too much benefics is like overdoing the goodness, overdoing the good, you know? So like drinking too much, partying too much, you know, not enough boundaries, essentially. Excuse me. But I think it can be extremely creative. I think it can be very social, really fun, really sexy. I love how it's happening in the summertime. I love how it's happening during Leo season. We get a really cute Venus cazimi at 20 degrees of Leo. I think it's August 13th. And then this is my favorite part of it. Towards the end of the Venus retrograde, Mercury is going to retrograde. I'm pro retrograde, bitch. I love a retrograde. Shouldn't say it like I'm like salivating for them, but I think that there's just a lot of opportunity in a retrograde, and if we take advantage of them and kind of look at them as opportunities, they can be really great. So we get a Mercury retrograde in Virgo. So Mercury is actually going to be in Virgo for 2 months, which is dope because that's Mercury exalted, you know, in its own sign for 2 full months, a little over 2 months actually. This is why I'm excited about it. Mercury is going to station retrograde in Virgo. Let me look at this. It is around, 21 degrees, almost 22 degrees Virgo around August 23rd. And then Jupiter is going to station retrograde at 15 degrees Taurus in early September. So between August and September, we'll get 3 trines from Jupiter to Mercury and Jupiter. They're going to trine each other. Well, Mercury will trine Jupiter 3 different times in Taurus and Virgo. And it's really cute. It's really cute that happens. I think it's really cute for the for like Virgo risings and Pisces risings. It's cute for you know, the other mutable risings as well, just to have the rulers of your angles interacting with each other in that way by trine. I think it's really social and can be also really like just mentally stimulating. I feel like it can be really good for learning or teaching, things like this, sharing information, writing, that type of thing. So I'm excited about it. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to like curse myself later and be like, this sucks, but you know, there's good and bad to all the transits. There's going to be annoying parts of it, of course, but so that is one thing I wanted to mention. Obviously, we start getting eclipses in Aries and Libra, which we can talk about another time. But I just wanted to shout out to my Scorpio babes, to my Scorpio placement babes. There is hope coming because Scorpio season 2023 is very cute in my opinion. So Mars is going to enter Scorpio in mid-October, like around the 12th of October. And then on my birthday, November 18th, we get a Mars cazimi. And by this point, Venus will be in Libra. So Venus is going to be in Libra for a good most of November. And Mars will be in Scorpio. And yeah, we'll get Sun Mars conjunction at 25 degrees of Scorpio. And I'm really excited about this because this will be the restart of Mars's cycle. Right now, we're in the middle of Mars' cycle because the retrograde is the midpoint of its like 2-year cycle. So come November of next year, we'll have the conjunction we restart Mars's cycle from a place where Mars is very strong. And so we're kind of having a nice restart, reset in that Scorpio house for you. So things have been rough because I'm sure they have been. Again, with the South Node moving through there and the the Saturn squares, and Uranus will get there as well. Uranus will kind of be opposite this cazimi. It'll be around 23 degrees of Taurus. So we're still dealing with Uranus, but I am hopeful for this next Mars cycle, basically. And then we'll get the Sun and Mars moving through Sagittarius together, and the Sun will pull away, but Mars will eventually get into Capricorn, and we'll have a nice exalted Mars. Venus will meet up, and they will conjoin again. I think it's either February 6th or at 6 degrees. I think it's 6 degrees Aquarius, but I forget when it is. But yeah, they conjoin again in Aquarius, in early Aquarius, Venus and Mars. So they're close for a good chunk of this year, but Mars will pull away when Venus is stationing retrograde in Leo. Is that all I wanted to say? Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah, let's see. Um, Mars retrograde, advice for 12th house perfection year. Yeah, let me end with that. Um, are you turning 23 or 35? Oh, thank you guys so much for joining. I'll just really quickly say stuff about the 12th house perfection year, which is surrender sooner than later. Just it's so like that is the advice I would give myself is surrender to whatever life is throwing you. And I know that is like not an easy thing to do. It is anything from easy, but it's more about learning how to surrender, learning how to kind of be that hangman hanging upside down from your ankle and finding peace in that, finding, um, stillness and finding your center in that. Because it's you're supposed to feel lost. You're going to feel lost. You're going to feel confused, and you can either look at that as um, I'm stuck in this prison of confusion and, you know, just being stuck where I'm at. Or you can look at it as like I'm given this kind of like period of time to play within this playpen. And I don't really need to know what I'm doing or what's going on, but and the conditions are not fun, but I know it's going to change. And I'm not saying it's going to be horrible for you because I don't know, but I don't know your chart, but it is a consistent theme of feeling kind of like floating in the abyss, confused, lost. What's next? I don't know, and that's okay. That's kind of the point of the 12th house year. You kind of find a lot of really cool things when you allow yourself to explore the liminal space. Um, and then just knowing it ends. It does end. And then at the end of it, you kind of go, if you don't let yourself surrender, you kind of go, fuck, I just had all that free time, or I just had all that time and space to just like do nothing, and now I'm like back in the rat race, or now, and I like wish I had rested. I wish I had let myself just relax, because it does end up being okay in the end, even though if it feels like it isn't. um and that's on 12th house Saturn return coming to a close. Okay, folks, happy new year. Some of you are already maybe not some of you, but some people are already in the new year. um Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm going to do this more often. I'm going to look into some like software so I can like share my screen and actually show charts too. Because I love doing this. I love hanging out with you and chatting, and I'm planning on doing it more. So glad you came and hung out with me. Where did you come from? Mess. Happy New Year, cuties. My favorite Gemini just popped into the chat way late. Love you guys. Mwah, 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 mwah. Bye. See you in the new year. Peace.